Adjustable rate mortgages are back on the rise.
I'm the boogeyman, and I'm coming to get you.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Rena Reed of the Reed team with Tribal Realty in beautiful Kansas City. And yes, adjustable rate mortgages or ARMs are back on the rise. The same ones that were very much one of the boogeymen of the last housing market crash. So, is there anything for us to be concerned about? Is this natural? Is this understandable? Well, let's get into a little bit. So, interest rates have risen really sharply since the beginning of the year. That's something that we've kind of all seen happen. And so, as these interest rates go up, your money that you can afford, because it's based essentially, your monthly payment is going to change because you're just paying more interest now than you were earlier. You can essentially afford less. So, it's time that these lenders come up with some ulterior ways of getting you money so that you can actually afford a house. And sometimes that means looking back to the past with these adjustable rate mortgages. And that is what we're seeing. So, is this a bad thing? Well, how they work is that you have a period of time up front where you're locked in at a particular rate, which is typically lower than your 30-year fixed rate. After time, after a certain period that you're locked in for, there's another period, usually, 6 months or so, where your interest rate can actually adjust. It can go up, it can go down, but it can only go a certain percent. And then it also has a cap. So let's say, for sake of discussion, you got an ARM where after 7 years, then it can change every 6 months up to 2% with a cap of 5%. So let's say interest rates skyrocket after 7 years. If it's locked in at first at 5%, after 7 years, then the first 6 months is going to go up 2% to 7. Then the next 6 months is going to go up 2% to 9, and then the next 6 months it's not going to go up 2% because it's capped at 5, so it's only going to go up to 1%, but it's going to be a total of 10%. Sounds pretty crazy, but where it really has a lot of benefit is for the people who are buying a house that they know they're not going to stay in for a long time, or for the people that know that they are going to for sure pay off their house before that initial period is done because of the shorter or the more affordable initial interest rate. Now, looking back at the whole situation that happened back before, they started regulating the mortgage industry a lot more heavily, you saw some kind of more sketchy practices where you're locked in for a month and then your caps are just ridiculously high or non-existent. So the fact that now the initial period is typically longer, if it's not, don't get it, right? That's going to be a conversation between you and your lender. They have different products, different ranges, things like that. But typically, you want a little bit longer initial period. And then now that they have their caps and they're not raising every single month over and over and over, that was where you were having a lot of issues because when those rates do go up, that's when your payment goes up and that's when you start having potential issues. Now, again, if you're a first time home buyer and you know that you're going to be out in 5 years, a 7 year period where you're locked in at a lower interest rate is fine because you know you're going to move. And even if you're not certain, you have a 2 year window where you can, play back and forth with it. But let's say, for sake of discussion, you know, you don't want to have that adjustment, right? Depending on what it's going to be. You also have the opportunity to refinance out of a loan, right? It's not necessarily always going to make the most sense and it's not necessarily going to be your best play, but that is an option that you can pursue. So, is there reason for concern? Well, now that you kind of have an understanding of what is happening and what has happened in the past, I would argue that we're in a much better position. The other part of it is that back before the market crashed, there was a lot of inventory. Right now, there's not a ton, but we have a ton of buyers. So, as buyers follow the market, it shouldn't crash necessarily. It should kind of level out over time. All the experts so far are saying that they're not expecting anything other than the appreciation to slow down, but they're still expecting appreciation in the near and a little bit longer term future. So I don't think these adjustable rate mortgages coming back into the frame aren't necessarily a huge thing for us to worry about. But I'd like to know your thoughts. What do you think? Is it something that you'd ever consider? Are you a lender? Have your lenders talked to you about this opportunity? If you're going out and you're competing against a bunch of people as a buyer, this could give you a little bit more wiggle room for your loan, how much money you can put down, how much money you can offer. So these are all just thoughts. If you're looking to buy a house in the near future, if you want to talk a little bit more about potential ways that we can navigate some of this competition, give me a call. I'd love to help you facilitate that. Until next time, I'll see you guys.